Now we're going to take a look at how we can combine several motions using Motion Flow. Motion Flow is a tool included with Character Studio, and it works with different motions. Now let's take a look at what we mean by a motion. Here we have this animation we created earlier, where we've got the biped walking along, then he stops and he waves. Now what we want to do is save this in a separate file so that we can combine it with other motions. And the way you do that is here on the motion panel, select a part of the biped and you've got this Save File button here. If you click that, then you can save the motion as a BIP file. Now this is a native Character Studio file format, and it's the format you use when you want to combine different motions. So here we've got this one, and it's called Walk Wave. Now you have the option of saving max objects when you save a BIP file. This is just the character's eyeballs. We're not interested in saving those. So we can turn this off. Now when you want to save objects is when you're using something as an IK object in a scene. For example, when we had our character earlier washing with a sponge, we would want to save the sponge here so that we have the linking motion, but we don't necessarily need that. So now what we'd like to do is save this walking motion, and we've already named it Walk Wave. We're just going to save over it. That's fine. Now what we can do to test it is reset and create a new biped, and we can load the motion onto it. Let's see how he does. Well, it looks good, except we've lost our wave for some reason. Let's see if we can see why. Going to go back to Walk Wave 05, and this actually has the mesh showing. Let's see if we can find the problem. Now what we did is we saved, and it automatically should save the entire segment. But we do have layers here. And we've got several layers going on. We've got the arms, and the original is where our foot motion is. So let's try this. Let's try collapsing all of the layers. So now we just have one layer, and everything's on that one layer. So we'll save. Same one, call it Walk Wave. Now let's test it out. Another way we could test this is we could just delete the footsteps. Deactivate them, delete them. Well, only active ones can be deleted, so we'll just delete those. And we have no motion on him now. So let's go ahead and load the file and see what happens. Play. Walks along. And he waves. So if you're going to save a BIP file, you need to collapse all the layers first, and then it will work. Now we also have some other motions that we can use. For example, I saved a BIP file for this dance turn that we did earlier. Biped just goes up and turns around. Now this motion is only 60 frames long, but because we already had 223 frames loaded, it just put it at the beginning of it. Now note that both feet are down at the beginning, goes up, and then both feet are down. The walk also starts and ends the same way, so we're going to have some nice easy transitions. Now let's take a look at one that we did earlier where the biped appears to be lost. Both feet are down, puts his hand up, looks around, puts the hand down. Now this is another good one for us to use because the feet are down at the beginning and the end. It'll make nice transitions. So let's go ahead and save this BIP file. So we click Save. Now we have the option of selecting BIP01 head separately as an IK object. And it is an IK object because this hand goes up and, touches the head, and it's stuck to the head while the head is turning. So we'll say we want to save this max object, this BIP01 head IK object, and we've got selected turned on, so just that one's going to save. And we're going to save it as lost.bip. We'll say, well, yeah, we want to replace it. Now it comes up with an error message. It says there was a problem saving the BIP file with max objects. One or more of the max objects is directly dependent upon a body part. Yeah, it's the head. It is a body part. Putting a dummy node between the dependent objects and the biped node will correct this. So let's ignore this for the time being. I'll show you how to do this in a minute, but let's just say, you say, well, how bad can it be? It probably worked. It's probably fine. Well, if you want to test it, go ahead and load the file, and now let's play. Now it still seems fine because we've just loaded it on the same biped we had before. But if we make a new biped and we load the motion onto him, let's see what he does. Oh, his arm is all weird. That's because the hand is trying to link to the head, but in order to use the head as an IK object, it has to be a separate object. It can't be part of the biped. Now, it's fine when you're just animating and you're going to go ahead and render, but if you're going to save something as a BIP file, you have to do something a little bit different. So let's go back to that message that we got. Let's see what it said again. So we're going to save, selected, lost, and it comes up and it says we need a dummy node between dependent objects. Now what that means is that instead of the hand using the head as its IK object, we're going to make a dummy object, and the hand will use that as its IK object, and we'll move the dummy object around, and we can link the dummy to the head. We can do all kinds of different things, and that will solve the whole problem. So let's take a look at how that will work. Let's go ahead and create an ordinary dummy object here over the hand. And for the time being, we're going to take all the animation off of the hand. Now, what we want to do is for the hand itself, instead of having the head as its IK object, we're going to make this dummy object its IK object and do a planted key. Now what that means is that I can pick up this dummy object and the hand will go with it. So we can animate that dummy to get it to do what we want. So let's zoom out a bit here, and we had it on frame 10, the hand was going up. So on frame 10, turn on auto key, and we can move the dummy object up here. And rotate it around to get the hand to rotate. You could rotate the hand itself. Just depends on what you'd rather do. As long as you get the hand there. Let's rotate locally. Might be easier. There we go. So let's take a close look, see where we're at. So the hand is on the face there. And that's pretty good. So the hand is touching the face, and now the head turns and the hand doesn't go with it. What we want to do is take this dummy object and use plain old link control on it. Now link control is a controller that you can use on any Max object. You don't use it on bipeds. If you can, there's different things that you would use if you wanted to do that kind of thing with a biped. But with regular Max objects, what you can do is you can make it so the dummy object is linked to nothing, and then at this point right here at frame 10 it's going to be linked to the head, then right up until frame 80 it's going to be linked to the head, and then at that point it will change and it will be linked to nothing, and you can animate it going back down to where it was before. So let's take a look at how that works. We've got our dummy object selected. Go to the motion panel and expand Assign Controller. Now the link control controller works with the entire object. So you're going to click Transform here and your Assign Controller button, and Link Constraint. Link Constraint is the name of the controller. Click OK. Now what we want it to do is on frame 0 we don't want it to be linked to anything. So basically it's linked to the world. So on frame 0 we click Link to World. Then we go to frame 10 and we say Add Link and click the head. So it's going to be linked to the head, and look at that, it's moving with it. Amazing. Then at frame 80 we want it to change. We want to link to the world again. We can turn off this Add Link button. So then here, from about 80 to about 90, we want it to go back to where it was before. So we can actually pick up the key on frame 0 and copy it to 90. So now the dummy object is back where it was. So let's see how that looks. So it goes up. It's linked to the head. Oh, it's too gradual here. We don't want that. Basically, here we want to copy this key. There we go. Stays linked and then comes down. Beautiful. Let's take a closer look at that. So there's our lost biped. Poor guy. Alright, so let's save that. Lost hand dummy. Now we can save our BIP file. So pick any part of the biped, save file. Now when it asks you about saving Max objects, you pick this dummy object. And we'll save that as lost. Oh. We put a dummy node between it. It should have corrected it. Let's see if it did. Create a new biped here. We're going to put this file on it, lost. Now we've still got problems. Okay, let's try this again. Save. And we only want to save this. There's no other objects in the scene that could be saved. We've got our whole segment, 0 to 100. We could tell it to save all. Let's see what happens. No, that still gave us a problem. Select it only. Try this. There, that worked. Okay. For some reason, well, we don't have the Max objects with it anymore. And we've got save segment. Let's see how that goes. Load this one. Oh, put them in the same spot. Hand goes up and it stays. Wow. Now this brings up another point. When you've got two bipeds right on top of one another, you can use this move all mode, and it will move one of them away without changing anything else. Now his hand's a little far away, but at least he's got the motion happening. So let's see if we can narrow down exactly what happened here. If we turn on Save Max Objects, doesn't like that. If we turn that off, it's fine, and it actually doesn't save the dummy object. That's not even appearing in the scene, but the motion is all correct. If we load on this one, use our move all mode to move this guy away, the motion stays correctly. So even though you've got a dummy object in there, you don't want to save it. Oops, that's not the one we were looking at. Even though you've got a dummy object here, you don't have to save it. Everything will be fine in the BIP file. So there you go. So after all that work getting all our BIP files ready, we're ready now to start using Motion Flow. So you select any part of the biped, and we've got our Motion Flow mode button here. That takes us into Motion Flow, gives us a whole new set of controls here. Now most of your work is going to be done with these buttons right here. The first thing you need to do is open up your graph. This is an area where you can put all of your BIP files. It doesn't put them in any particular order until you tell it to, but this is just where you, sort of an area to just sort of drop them all. So you can, the easiest thing to do is click Create Multiple Clips and pick your BIP files. These all come with the training program if you want to use them. And it puts these clips here in this graph. And you can move the clips around, spread them out a little bit, because you're going to have arrows going between them to indicate what's going to be next and so on. Now after you've got the clips in there, there's a whole bunch of things you can do with them, but we'll start with the simplest thing you can do, which is basically put them in a sequence. So let's say he's going to walk and wave, and then he's going to do his little dance turn, and then he's going to be lost. So we'll do it in that order. This one, then that one. So what you need to have in order for the motions to actually take place is you need a script. And the script is created over here. So you need to click Define Script, and then you just click on the motions you want. So we have this one. See, it appears there and in the viewport. And then we click this one, and that one shows up here. Also an arrow goes from that to that, indicating that it's going to go from that motion to that one, and then we'll go to here. And that's our script: walk, wave, dance, turn, and lost. So we can turn off Define Script, and if we move this out of the way, maybe we can see what he does. So he walks forward, waves, does a little turn, and then he looks around. Now it's a little funky. There's something wrong here. This is fine when he waves. Now when he goes to do the dance turn, see, he's coming off the ground. There. Coming off the ground. And he doesn't make it all the way around. He kind of slides down, and then he does the thing with the hand, with the lost thing. Now the way we can control how this does is by playing around with the transitions. There is a transition between one clip and the next. See, right here around this frame, it tells you there's a transition from and to, one to the other. And the length of that transition and where it falls makes a big, huge difference. So let's go ahead and go to this transition here, and we have this nice dialog we can pull up, Edit Transition. And what this gives us is during the time of the transition we have a red skeleton showing where it's going and a yellow one showing where it's coming from. So you can see here this transition starts at frame 199 in the first clip and at frame 0 in the second clip. And its length is 24 frames long. We might be able to get a better transition by making this a little shorter. Say 19, and making it start a little later. Well, it's still a little soft. It's kind of going up in the air like that, and it's not looking good. Well, one thing you can do to sort of fix the whole thing up very quickly, we can just click OK. We can select this transition, and we have a choice up here to optimize selected transitions. Now what that does is it brings up this dialog, and it searches for the best time for the transition. And we're going to have the transition length be quite short, be 10 frames, and have it search near the existing transition. We don't want it at the beginning. Actually, let's do the whole clip. We'll see how that works. We click OK, and now let's see what it's given us. Well, the feet move apart a little, and then transition up. A little better than it was. Anyway, at least the feet aren't sliding around like they used to be. And then when we have our turn, let's optimize that transition too and see what we end up with. Turns all the way around, and then the feet come down before he does the thing with his hand. Let's take another look at how this looks. It's pretty good, actually. Let's take a look at the motion, in motion. Moves along, waves, then he executes his little turn. And then he's lost. Not too bad. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the little step at the beginning of the dance turn has been taken out. The transitions, oh, there is a little step there, but it's very short. It just goes right up into it and turns. And there he is. So that's how you use motion flow. Basically, you want to have motions between which there will be a decent transition. In this case, we have motions that all start and end with the feet being flat on the ground. And then you put them here in your motion flow graph, set up your transitions, optimize them, take a look, and you can also manually edit the transitions here if you need to with this button. If you are in the middle of a transition, such as here, while the transition's going on, you can click this and bring up the transition dialog. Well, it's not happening now. But it did a minute ago, didn't it? There we go. We'll select this. That brings it up. Okay. And you can manually edit the time in, the time out, various other things about it, and use your skeletons to see where the transition is going. The red and the yellow. Or you can use the ones on your graph.